The ship came down hard, belly scraping the rocks, fire bleeding from a ruined engine. It wasn't Dren Solis's ship. He didn't own one. But when the Force carried him into trouble, it rarely gave him a say in the matter. He stepped out into thick, choking air. A twilight world of towering ridges and jagged canyons stretched before him, cloaked in mist. The planet had a name once. No one used it anymore. Now, it was just Black Hollow, a world where men came to disappear and debts came to be paid in blood. Dren had been here before, a long time ago. The Force had called him back. He pulled his cloak tight and walked. The settlement was a sprawl of rusted durasteel and broken promises. A place where the law was whoever had the most men and the least hesitation. As Dren passed the first row of shacks, eyes peered out from shadowed doorways. Whispers followed him. Low, urgent murmurs. He was an outsider. Outsiders didn't last long in Black Hollow. The cantina sat at the heart of the settlement, its flickering sign half buried in grime. Dren stepped inside. The air reeked of sour alcohol and old sweat. Voices dropped to murmurs as men and women took stock of the stranger. Big, silent. Something in his posture said he had nothing to prove. Something in his presence said he was not to be tested. The bartender, a scarred Duros with tired red eyes, was the first to speak. "You're a long way from wherever you belong, stranger." Dren reached into his satchel, pulled out a worn datapad, and slid it across the bar. The screen flickered, showing a face, a human man, hardened features, streaks of gray in his hair, a deep scar cutting from brow to chin. The bartender stared, then shook his head. "Don't know him?" Dren let the silence stretch. The Duros shifted uneasily, then exhaled. "All right, maybe I do." He poured himself a drink, didn't offer one to Dren. "But you're better off pretending you don't." Dren didn't blink. The bartender took a long swallow. "His name's Varric Gant. Used to run with the Ash Wraiths. Now he's lying low. He's got half the hollow in his pocket, and the other half too scared to make a move." "Where?" The Duro shook his head. "Listen, you got no idea what you're stepping into." Dren placed a single credit chip on the counter. Not a bribe, a courtesy. The Duros exhaled, then nodded toward the back. "Down in the slag pits. You won't make it past his men." Dren slid the credit forward. "I will." He turned and walked out. The slag pits were carved deep into the canyon floor, a network of tunnels and open-air yards, where Black Hollow's worst did their work. Torchlight flickered against rusted scaffolding. Dren walked straight through the front gate. They saw him coming. Half a dozen men in patchwork armor, weapons in their hands. One of them, a Weekay with a cybernetic jaw, stepped forward. "You lost?" Dren stopped a few paces away. Varric Gant. A slow grin spread across the Weekay's face. "Yeah? What about him?" Dren pulled back his hood. For a long moment, no one spoke. The Weekay's grin faltered. He knew the name, the stories, the green lightsaber. Dren didn't draw it. He didn't have to. "Run," he said. 3 men ran. The rest hesitated, then reached for their blasters. They were too slow. Dren moved, fast for a man his size, fluid like a shifting tide. His first strike shattered the Weeke's jaw beyond cybernetic repair. The second sent another man sprawling into the dirt. Blasters came up. Dren's hand snapped forward. The Force, unseen, unrelenting, ripped the weapons from their grasp. One man, panicked, scrambled for a vibroblade. Dren stepped inside his reach, caught his wrist, and twisted. Bone cracked. The man screamed. The fight was over before it had begun. Dren barely slowed as he stepped over their groaning forms and descended into the tunnels. Varric Gond was waiting.